Those of you who have followed me for a while might be scratching your head in confusion. Max likes Spyro, the guy who does videos on really dark and complicated subjects like existentialism and the nature of evil, is doing a video on a kids game featuring a purple dragon? Seriously? Yes, seriously. Allow me to get real for a second. Some of you know me from my videos on games like Metal Gear Solid and Shadow of the Colossus, both of which are in my top 5 games of all time. Well, without exaggeration, Spyro, specifically Spyro Year of the Dragon, is in that top 5 as well. Why? The original Spyro trilogy is entertaining for the same reason that really old games like the original Super Mario Bros. Are entertaining. They nailed the basic gameplay mechanics so well. Spyro 1, 2, and 3, in their essence, are very simple games, but the few elements that make up their composition are so refined that they remain timeless. Whether it's the simple yet thrilling platform sections or the simple yet charming characters, Insomniac's original trilogy has set a standard that modern platformers still look up to 20 years on. For these few reasons, not only does Spyro hold an eternal place in my gaming heart, it also brings that joy to a whole new generation of gamers in the Reignited Trilogy. I'm going to do my best to make my review of this game accessible to everybody, whether you're a Spyro veteran like me, or somebody who has never heard of this lovable purple ball of fire. However, be forewarned that there will be a few instances where I talk about some really nerdy, obscure things that only mega Spyro fans will understand. If anything, feel free to make fun of me for being so geeky about minor details. Anyways, Spyro the Reignited Trilogy is not a remaster, it's a remake. Unlike some remastered titles like Halo Anniversary for example, where it looks and sounds different but the gameplay remains the exact same, Spyro updates almost every aspect of its presentation. Though there is potential danger in manipulating the old mechanics, thankfully, the Reignited Trilogy manages to maintain a perfect balance between evoking nostalgia and updating where necessary. Let's start with the good and then work our way to the great. First off is gameplay. Spyro's signature skill set is all still there. He breathes fire, he glides, he hovers, he charges, and he breathes underwater. For newcomers, the controls are very easy to pick up and master. For Spyro veterans like myself, it will take a bit of getting used to. As somebody who has played the Spyro games every other year since the age of 8, I have learned to control Spyro in a way where I can have him dart across the map without much fear of harm. While playing the remake, I had to forget the muscle memory I developed over 15 odd years and adapt. Spyro actually feels more like an actual dragon compared to his PS1 counterpart, where his jumps and attacks felt kind of interchangeable with other platformers. It's a bit frustrating for the first hour actually. Unlike the original Spyro games where I would leap and glide to various platforms without any fear of falling into the void, it happened to me a decent number of times with the remakes. I would be gliding to an enemy stronghold over a chasm, expecting to hover at the end of my jump, only for the game to totally negate my button prompt. Thankfully, it's something you learn to accept after a while and in some respects prefer. Another unfortunate but forgivable thing about remaking the mechanics is that all the pro strat glitches have been removed. For example, you can no longer do the jump glitch from Spyro 2 where you press square at the top of your jump to get greater height, allowing you to get to certain sections of the game quicker than the designers have originally intended. You can't do the swimming glitch in Summer Forest or Midday Gardens either. Again, it's something you have to get used to, but it's totally understandable. The ranging difficulty of the game is also preserved, albeit with some minor adjustments. Remember, though Spyro is a game that can be enjoyed by all ages, it is definitely aimed towards a younger audience. As a result, the core game is easy as all hell. It only gets harder with the extra challenges you decide to take on. Regardless of your age and skill, these challenges will take you anywhere from 3 or 4 attempts to 40 attempts. However, at no point do the challenges feel unfair or arbitrarily made difficult by some sadistic game designer. The difficulty always feels organic to the task at hand. Moreover, some of the original challenges are actually made easier. For instance, if you're an OG Spyro fan, remember how some challenges like the Monkey Barrel Run in Scorch or the Turtle Soup thing in Sunny Beach would always fix the camera in this really annoying way where you would go to hit your target and completely miss? Well, have no fear, Toys for Bob alleviated any pre-existing dread you might have had leading up to those challenges. And speaking of the camera, its improvements are not just specific to certain challenges but to the whole whole game. I know a lot of people hated the way the camera system worked in the PS1 versions, where you would have to actually rotate the camera using the R1 and L1 buttons. Yeah, that's how ghetto we were back then. Now you can control it with the right thumbstick, or you can change your camera to active mode so that it consistently points forward. It feels so much more fluid and less like you're lugging an actual film rig around. Now let's talk about some of the things that have been preserved from the original game: the music and the voice actors. Without a lie, Stuart Copeland's musical score for the entire Spyro trilogy, but more specifically Spyro Ripto's Rage, is in my top 5 favorite gaming scores ever. Toys for Bob understood how much personality that original score gave to every aspect of Spyro's universe, and wisely decided not to mess with that. Though they did give us remastered versions of the original score, Toys for Bob decided to give gamers the option to switch between the remastered and original soundtracks, in one of the best examples of fan service I've ever witnessed in a video game. While the remastered versions are fine, for me personally, I played the games with the original soundtrack, as there is no topping perfection. Several members of the original voice cast return as well. Tom Kenny, famous for voicing SpongeBob SquarePants, voices Spyro for all 3 games, unlike with the original PS1 trilogy where he only voiced Spyro in 2 and 3. Obviously, because he's Tom Kenny, he does an excellent job. We also have Michael Gough back as Nasty Nork, Greg Berger back as Ripto, Richard Tatum back as Agent 9, and even Andre Saglucio back as Sparks. As for the characters of Hunter, Alora, Bianca, the Sorceress, Moneybags, and Sheila, their original voice actors do not return. Nevertheless, the new voice actors all do a competent job, and in some respects, like with Alora and Moneybags, might do an even better job. Finally, let's move from the good to the great: the graphics. Oh my god, this game is so pretty to look at, man. And no, it's not as detailed or dense as Red Dead Redemption 2 or God of War, just off the top of my head, but it doesn't have to be. The art direction is the stuff of pure fantasy brought to life. Individual leaves in the trees, water that shimmers, thick blades of grass that you can now light on fire. And by the way, how cool does Spyro look when he gets those power-ups? Instead of turning red, for example, like he did in the original when he picked up the flame power-up, his scales and mane light up. It looks so freaking cool. The levels obviously look great, and part of the fun of being a lifelong Spyro fan is anticipating what Toys for Bob did to each world before you go to it, and thankfully I found myself blown away again and again and again. The areas of each level look much more lived in, with a much denser sense of culture compared to the original. Now, don't get me wrong, the levels from the originals are cool and imaginative, each with a unique cultural theme. However, in the PS1 versions, the graphical limitations didn't make it seem like these individual levels all inhabited one greater realm like Avalar or the Forgotten Worlds. Rather, they just seemed like tongue-in-cheek parodies of real-life cultures. In the Reignited Trilogy, the graphical revamp makes everything so much prettier and believable, and as a result, the danger these worlds face seems much more present. You find yourself much more endeared to the NPCs you come across and save. And speaking of which, oh my god, how cute are those damn baby dragons? I want plush toys now. And I don't even get plush toys, but I want plush toys of those things. Before I conclude, I just wanted to list a couple of things that I don't like, be they additions or things that weren't fixed from the original. It's a short list of admittedly minor problems, but nevertheless I believe they can't be ignored. First of all, I don't like how Hunter has been reinterpreted. See, in the original game, Hunter was very much the comedic foil, but he was also a reliable partner that you could take into battle. In the Reignited Trilogy, he comes off as an over-the-top buffoon, whose comedic moments are exaggerated for kids. Now, granted, this might have been the better decision if it's going to appeal to more kids and thus create a bigger audience for Spyro in the long run, but for me personally, I didn't like it. As for other characters, I don't really like what they did with Bianca. See, in the Reignited Trilogy, Bianca seems more cartoonishly evil and less nasty. In the original game, her transformation from villain to hero made her one of the more memorable characters in the Spyro canon. Here, she feels much more two-dimensional. probably for the sake of, like I said for Hunter, being kid-friendly. In respect to the original games, one thing that kind of irked me was how the worlds in Spyro 2 had introductory and closing cutscenes, but Spyro 3 didn't. And I thought Toys for Bob might have taken the opportunity to add those in, as those cutscenes added so much to what made the games charming in the first place. Even to this day, the antics of the NPCs described in those cutscenes make me chuckle, so to not add some in the remake feels like a bit of a missed opportunity. The length of time it takes for the game to load a new world or reload after you die is a huge pain. It takes you anywhere from 3 to 4 times as long to get to a new world. As well, when you die, it takes you anywhere from 10 to 15 seconds for the game to reload, whereas in the original, it only took 2 or 3 seconds. What gives? It's not a game-breaking issue, and it's understandable to an extent given hardware limitations, but it nevertheless remained annoying throughout my playthrough. Finally, I have just a couple of not so much problems, but questions with one or two things. For instance, the soldiers in Scorch don't have guns anymore. They have a crossbow-like thing that shoots rocks. Also, the character of Bombo the Flag Keeper is now called Bob the Flag Keeper. Why? Does he look like a Bob to you? He doesn't look like a Bob to me. Again, it's not really a problem, I just found it weird. Also, is it just me, or is the Gulp boss fight much more difficult in the remake? If any of you guys have played the game yet, please let me know if you had trouble beating Gulp. With all that being said, Spyro the Reignited Trilogy is a set of games that was clearly crafted by fans for fans. If you are a fan of classic platformers, or if you've never played a platformer in your life, Spyro is a great place to start. It is a hugely entertaining experience for gamers of all skill levels, filled to the brim with charm and heart. Hopefully, if the trilogy is successful, it will encourage people to return to this universe and build upon what made the 3 originals so great with new installments. My final score for this game is an 8.5 out of 10. If you like this video and you want to see more gaming content from me, click one of the videos you see on screen now.